member of the Ayurvedic Association of Canada. And I'm just going to take this down. And if you could please take turn your videos off, just so that I can put this on speaker mode. There we go. Okay. So I think we should be fine now. Gita, can you say something and see if you show up on the main screen, please? There we go. You're the one that you're the one that needs to be there. Oh, there you go. I don't know who that person is. Neelam, can you oh, there we go. Change the view. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you see me?
We can now for sure.
Oh,
welcome.
Good.
So would you like to do a little introduction about yourself as a filmmaker, where you live, who you are before we start?
If you would like, yes, definitely.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Namaste. Namaste to everybody, and welcome. And thank you, Erica, and thank you, Neelam, for inviting me. It's an honor and an opportunity which I never miss, to share my films with wide audiences across the world. So I live in Los Angeles with my husband, and for the last, I would say, 16 years, I've devoted my time in making 3 documentaries on subjects that are very dear to me. And I've unveiled yoga, and later on unveiled raga, the Indian classical music. And just last year we released Ayurveda Unveiled. So it was a formal unveiling of that tradition. And obviously most people would know that these are Indic traditions that are tied. So the way the films are made is that there's a knot tied to yoga, to raga, to Ayurveda. They're inseparable. The bedrock is the same, the essence, spiritual essence is the same, but they're multi-houred and textbook films, I call them, literally edited in like books. You can turn pages, graphics and charts and maps, etc., to bring the real comprehension, not only comprehension, but a real understanding of the spirit behind these powerhouses and the potential they hold. When we don't look at this spirit and this power within these, then we're just building our homes on bridges, the physicality and the medications and herbs and treatments. And it's puny compared to what they hold in assuring that we do not get sick. We unleash our maximum potential. And so this was my real objective in really bringing the true essence of these traditions out. And you all can judge from viewing the films whether I've achieved it or not, but that was the basis. And my kind husband funded these films, so they're completely self-funded, monumental budgets, but they took a life of their own. I wasn't a filmmaker by training, a homemaker basically, but creative in my head, where a lot of ideophoria, and I can see things finished in my head. So that came in handy, and I'm very strong physically, which is a requirement to make films on low budgets and small teams. You really need to put 13, 14, 15-hour days and travel all over the world, and takes years, 16 years it took. So here we are. Is that good, Erica?
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, good.
So we're going to start by the trailer that Gita has for her film. It's about 4 or 5 minutes long. And just give me 1 second and I will put it on. Okay, can you see it? Hang on a minute. Okay, here we go. Can you see it, Gita?
It's a black screen, but if you start, I think, yeah.
Great. Okay, here's the trailer for everyone.
That edge of recorded time, when men and gods merged and walked the lands of ancient India, reveals a remarkably mature civilization. Collectively, they strived to examine and uplift human well-being from every angle.
Ayurveda is one of the most ancient and most comprehensive system of healthcare that is known to humanity.
We are talking about Ayurveda as a science of enhancing life. This needs a very comprehensive approach.
So Ayurveda gives the details of how to do this.
Ayurveda takes us from simple things like diet, lifestyle, daily routine, emotional interactions, slowly and very gently to a deeper understanding of the self.
The teaching genius of the sages devised daily routines called dinacharya, one of the single most powerful Ayurvedic tools for maintenance of health and well-being.
So what we feel, what we think, what we live is reflected in our body.
It has such detailed explanations of effects of every single food item imaginable.
These are the common spices used in Ayurvedic cooking. These spices alter the quality of the food.
The food may not be the problem at all, but how we're consuming the food, how we're living while we're eating this food.
Actually, the most important thing is how is your digestive fire working? How strong is your Agni?
It doesn't just look at the structure or the chemistry of the physical body, but the internal and holistic unitary life force behind it, which is called prana.
Life force itself as a universal power which sustains the material world.
What you exhale, the tree is inhaling. What the tree exhales, you are inhaling. If this alignment happens consciously, this will lead to a phenomenal sense of well-being within you.
India's sages derived a bedrock of insights, upon which Ayurveda and all Indic knowledge systems were built.
Yoga and Ayurveda, they have their origin in the supreme knowledge of the self.
Within the human body, the 5 elements manifest as the tridosha, or the 3 organizational patterns.
The more self-knowledge we have about how we are put together as self, that will benefit us substantially.
Health is the dynamic balance between the essence and the waste in the system.
You have to strengthen that equilibrium. Your sleep, diet. The bulk of Ayurveda is wellness.
Our bodies mirror within all that's in the outer world. Nothing is exempt from this total embrace.
In Ayurveda, the focus is on what is at the root of all of this. Why is this happening?
Some patients of rheumatoid arthritis might get one herbal preparation and some might get another one.
It could also be a touch, a thought, a sound, and it could also be a light.
That's what Vedic medicine is. It's spirit-based.
The Ayurveda is trans-scientific, that it accepts the methods of science but also goes beyond it.
Having validation through measurement and precision with the modern tools that we have, all this will help in creating a better framework for understanding biological correlates in Ayurveda and yoga.
Every time you see a patient or a client, you educate them about themselves.
Empower your patients to be their own doctors.
And so you're generating a lot of counter momentum from all these different ways, and you're doing it much faster and much, much, much safer.
When they start doing what they always wanted to do, the cells began to feel themselves in a place where they were naturally supposed to be.
So that's healing.
It is not about prevention and cure, it's about making the body work at its best.
Pure, unbounded intelligence provides the blueprint for the proper functioning of the whole physiology.
The state of perfect balance, wholeness, harmony, And that is the basis of Ayurveda.
You say yes to life, you say yes to things that are supportive of you. And there is inner intelligence within you that is universal that will show you what is right for you.
Which is the wisdom which resides within each one of us. This is something that should not be forgotten.
And so it is with Ayurveda. Harmony within and without.
An amazing trailer.
Thank you.
So can you speak to us a little bit about where the inspiration came from to make this film, a little bit about the process of making the film and all the great people you got to interview?
Surely. Erica, the birth of the idea was back in 2002. When I first conceived that a film on yoga is so necessary, because people are going after yoga as if it's an exercise, and teachers and masters and the whole fraternity isn't, kind of sharing the true essence. They're all looking at yoga as asanas, and that's about it. Look fit and look good and look thin. And so shortchanging everybody. So that's when I began making Yoga Unveiled. And then what I found was, because I'm very much into Indian classical music, and I've been an organizer and we've been patrons to many, many musicians, and a professional listener, I would say. I love the Indian classical music. So what was happening was, very quickly, the masters, the great masters who were above 80 and 90 were leaving us soon after I released Yoga Unveiled. And so I wanted to make a film on Ayurveda, but I jumped onto Raga, the music endeavor, because of Ravi Shankar and Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, and many, many greats were really very, very old and passing. So I did not wait. I just, no sooner was Yoga Unveiled released, I jumped into the work that took 4.5 years to make that film. And while I was capturing the footage, we lost about 13 or 14 of the greatest masters. So it was very timely and very wise of me that I started interviewing 80 and above, the greats, and then coming down to everybody else. So that became an archival film. Yoga Unveiled is archival because Iyengarji and Indra Devi and some of the greatest historians, Dr. Feuerstein, no more. So these are the last interviews. And so once I got done with Raga Unveiled, it was time to show the sister science of yoga. All along, I knew that people aren't really, the yoga world especially has missed the boat very, very, very heavily, where they've never shown the fundamentals of Ayurveda up until about 4 or 5 years now. Everybody's waking up to it. But teacher training programs did not at all introduce the students and the teachers to be about anything about Ayurveda, was never taught. And that's not right. And the other way around as well. The Ayurveda students must know the basic foundational principles of yoga, and that they're inseparable. The Pancha Mahabhuta, that holds, the Sankhya gives birth to all this. So it was very, very important for me to bring that aspect out, so that there's complete healing, or there's complete teaching, or there's complete chance of, sharing the maximum potential that one can, blossom into, if the teachers, if the keepers of Ayurveda, or the keepers of the knowledge are well aware of it. So then I embarked on Ayurveda Unveiled, and that took me 5 years to make. many travels to India, many travels across America, Europe, So, and the editing happened here in Los Angeles. Music was composed in Calcutta. What else?
It was definitely a labor of love all those years. Thank you for doing it.
You're welcome. It was an opportunity. Really. Every time I sat in front of these greats, I would have to pinch myself and say, really? I mean, what an honor to just, I'd forget the questions. It was quite overwhelming.
I bet it was an amazing experience that none of us will get to have.
Yes. So that was the journey, but the vision was mine, the outlines were mine, the screenplay was mine, whom to choose was me. So yes, I do take credit for that. I had a kind of road map in the head, and I chose most of the people that I have interviewed for all 3 films, I would say. I really wanted practitioners, not just scholars, not just people who were academicians or scholars,
Yeah.
I needed people who really rolled up their sleeves and did what they preached every day. It had to exude that spirit in their voices, and you can, twinkle in their eyes, or whatever you call it. Only then all of you would really believe what they're saying.
Right.
So that was a good, what shall I say, an ability, I would say. I do have that kind of how to put it together, who should I bring together, and who would complement who, and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, the energy shows up in the film, definitely, of your expertise at doing that.
Yeah, it's a natural thing. It's not that I plan it, but after having made films and what people say, when I bring certain other projects that I do, I bring musicians together and we have a festival. So when I hear people say that, I realize that yes, it is there. It is there.
Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
I'm going to do a little clip that you sent me.
Sure.
On basically the microcosm and the macrocosm, how we are part of nature and nature is part of us. And it's such an important concept in Ayurveda. And just like yoga, I think many of us, or many people, kind of can conceptualize that in an intellectual way, but to bring it into the heart and the body is a whole different experience in understanding our connection to nature. So I'll just start that little clip for us.
Sure.
Today, modern science has come up with a few things called constructional theory and a few other things, which are clearly looking at how the design of the atom and the design of the larger cosmos is fundamentally same. It is only the complexity and sophistication has multiplied many times over. How an amoeba is made and how a human being is made is fundamentally same. It is only a question of complexity and sophistication, which is multiplied.
There are connections between the inner and the outer, and these connections are of different kind. For example, we do know that our cells have clocks in it, and some of these clocks are connected to the motions of the moon, some to the sun, some to other terrestrial processes. But this is only at the physical level. There are also subtle connections between all physical nature.
There's a phrase in the Ayurvedic literature, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. As is the atom, so is the universe. As is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm. As is the human body, so is the cosmic body, the human mind, the cosmic mind. We, as biological organisms, are in the deeper reality, the activity of all that is, of the entire universe.
The reality of awareness required a mirror to reflect itself so that it could perceive itself. Each one of us has the potential to serve as a mirror for that reality. Each one of us, each microcosm, each pinda that you and I are, has the possibility to act as a fit mirror for the macrocosm, for the Brahmanda.
Through dedicated examination of nature and its relationship to man, India's sages derived a bedrock of insights upon which Ayurveda and all Indic knowledge systems were built. It was clear to them that from the limitless galaxies to our minutest cells, Mother Nature governs with equipoise. Infinite combinations of the 5 principal elements, ether, air, fire, water, and earth, all spawned both the macro and microcosm. So any and all changes in the external cosmos affects our internal workings without fail.
This very body is 72% water and 12% earth, 6% air, 4% fire. The remaining is space. If you take charge of these things, what you need to know, everything that is life is here, because modern physicists are saying, as you sit here, every subatomic particle is in communication with the rest of the cosmos.
We are 100% made in and made by nature. Whether we like it or not, we are affected by the rhythms of nature. You talk about the science of chronobiology and the types of people, how they are affected with types. We call them as chronotypes. So these are all sciences which are modern scientific terms, but these are revalidating these ancient principles.
Wonderful. I'd like you to speak a little bit about if your understanding of Ayurveda grew or changed during the making of the film by meeting all these inspirational people, and also just that it's such an important mission for any of us involved in Ayurveda to be of service to Ayurveda and spread it as much as we can as the most profound healing system on the planet right now. So could you speak to that a little bit for us, please?
Sure, surely. So I do have to say that I do not claim to be a scholar or an expert or a historian nor a healer. So that I'm not. But my understanding and my inspiration and my knowledge of what Ayurveda truly represents, from the sage's vision to, it became extremely clear, Erica. And that vision is something that I would like to get on the rooftops and announce as much as I can. And this is so needed right now, so needed. And unfortunately, just like yoga, which has become so commercial as well, Ayurveda is kind of going that route, I feel.
Yes, on that path for sure.
On that path. Because it's a capitalist, America leads capitalism, it rules, it's nothing we can do about.
Yeah.
However, what I could do is I could make a film, and I made a film and I edited it so that these kinds of messages that are so necessary to come out are there. So I do speak towards that, and that understanding became just solid, rock solid. Nobody will ever change my mind. I don't care who comes in front of me. I know that this was intuitively or meditatively or just being with these masters and seeing everything that I did. I just know that the vision of the sages, and please read my lips here. The vision of the sages, Charak Muni, Sushruta, whoever proposed to organize it into a body of knowledge and offer it to the world and offer it to the universe. Actually, it was never meant for Indians only. The words Manav Jati and Vishwaroop and the universe and human race and all those are all interspersed in the Vedic scriptures. So it was meant for the world, because unless you are healthy, I'm not healthy. I'm not healthy. Neighbor, everybody affects everyone. We know it. The pandemic is here telling us that. So their vision through Ayurveda, the knowledge, the body of knowledge that we call yoga, Ayurveda, was to teach us how not to get sick. In my opinion, that is the thrust of all this. Minute to minute awareness about doing everything, how we breathe, how we eat, how we sit, dinacharya, ratricharya, that is the key element.
Yes.
That is what should really be shared with the world. The genius of these sages that, let us show them how not to get sick. Think about it.
Yes.
Illnesses will always be there. Money will be made by healers. But this is not the way we are going. Oh my goodness.
No, we're making the earth sick too, which makes us sicker.
Because the Panchamahabhuta, we're all connected. How can it not?
Everything.
So that's my learning, biggest learning. And this is all I talk about, think about, live. How not to get sick. We all have a responsibility to look towards that part of Ayurveda in a very big way.
Yes.
Minute to minute awareness about how we do everything. It's so simple, and it's so simple. You eat when the sun is hottest, you sleep in a better, have sleep hygiene, hours. It's not like we're doing all this flaky stuff. Oh, the sun arose, so we have to. It's not that. There is so much science to it. The rhythms, the circadian rhythms, everything is tied in.
Yes.
We don't need more research. We just need to follow what Charak Muni said. Just blindly follow and see how you feel. This body will tell you that they were right. You don't need any papers or.
No.
It's all
There's too much scientific research today that
that's what money is.
Yes, and we think that we need to follow it, and it changes so much. Every single piece of it is changing all the time. Whereas, the teachings of Ayurveda are thousands of years old and they have not changed. Practitioners still use the same books.
The reason is that, if they're asking for research, this is my answer. And the film has that little chapter on it too. Research was already done. For centuries, the Rishi Munis, the laboratories were their own bodies. They didn't have labs that cost millions of dollars. They went on into the forests, and a lot of them got damaged too. They hurt themselves because they were experimenting, I suppose, doing asanas and twisting. All kinds of things. They refined it through their meditative practices, and it became an unshakable truth because they aligned with the universal principles, right? So
today we think we know better than nature.
The research was done. I think this is what we all should say. It was already done.
Yeah.
That's why allopathy changes every 10 years, 15 years. because it's money oriented. The whole impetus comes from how to make maximum dollars out of this. Research is money.
True.
Let's not look at it as research. You publish or you perish. So it is grants, millions of dollars of grants. It's nonsense. Every year, everything keeps changing and puny findings. So sorry, Erica, but I'm very outspoken. So.
I'm glad. So am I. We would have great talks. I'm going to do the next clip. It's on Prakriti.
Sure.
And I think the essence of Ayurveda is to understand who we are. And Prakriti is a very important part of understanding who we are and what we need to do in our lives. And your piece shows that very well. I'll just get it up.
Sure.
Realization of an individual's prakriti, or constitution, is priceless for a Vaidya in the healing process. Early judgment of the unique dosha mix permits a glimpse of inborn limitations and imbalances, and suggests suitable cures for the patient.
The Ayurvedic scriptures talk about Tulsi being good for this, good for that. Somebody takes Tulsi and doesn't get relief. No Ayurvedic physician said that I'm going to make this medicine and it'll be valid for the whole country or even America or Europe, at all times. They had this humility to say it is valid at this place and this time.
This is the area of pharmacogenomics, that the same doses in one patient causes severe side effects. Same doses in another patient, no effect, and in another patient, the desired effect. And this is because of the genomic variations in the drug metabolizing enzymes in the body. Therefore, quickly all the medicines or drugs are metabolized and excreted, and others are poor metabolizers. Studies have shown that poor metabolizers, as expected, correspond to the Ayurvedic constitution of a kapha prakriti, and extensive metabolizers to the pitta prakriti, for example.
From an Ayurvedic perspective, everyone creates diseases in their own ways. It could be a Vata person creating a disease differently, a Pitta person creating disease differently. And you cannot really compartmentalize the symptom.
This is where Ayurveda steps in with personalized medicine. We're trying to find out what the composition of this individual that appears in our office is composed of. How does that person look like? How does his or her organs function? What are predominant structures? What are predominant metabolic processes? What are very obvious aspects of this individual?
Ayurveda is more of a subjective science. It's more of a subjective science where we take into account everything else, who that person is and what's going on in their life, and create a template which is very personalized for that person at that given time. We look at other people's life with microscope and our own life with a telescope. We need to start looking at ourselves with microscope. Why do I like this food? Why do I eat these things? Why do I think this way? Why do I say these kind of things? All of these things, when you start doing what we call as Svadhyaya, when you start learning more about yourself, bringing positive shift and transformation, as the doctors and healers, we are guides on the sides. Okay, we are going to help you, guide you to certain things, but you have to do the journey. We have to empower you to do the journey. And once it happens, that becomes effortless.
Getting sick is falling into a pit. So a physician's role is essentially to give a helping hand.
So we should not be dealing with and focusing primarily on the diseases, on the dysfunctions. We should be focusing on where were they created? Why did they come? What do they represent? What is the story of the person?
when we start making the changes in their collective environment and they start thinking and adding some of those things, you turn off those unhealthy genes. You turn on those positive health promoting genes and they start seeing the difference right away. So the real basis of epigenetic changes is all about what you do, what you think, what you eat, what you behave, how you live, how you generate your thoughts and emotions, how your emotional responses to a certain situation. All of that is going in. And I think there is nothing better than Ayurveda to understand that template.
Wonderful. That's it. Property is a very important part. I find it really interesting with my clients to see how people have become socially hypnotized to go to a bookstore and buy a book on diet when they don't even know who they are. So I think your film will have a very profound impact on people beginning to understand who they are. And so could you just talk a little bit about, was your inspiration to make an educational film, did that come right away, or was it something that evolved as you made the film?
Right away. When I made Yoga Unveiled, the first and foremost, I would say the birth of that idea was when I attended a workshop, a yoga workshop by Krishnamacharyaji's grandson, the great Hatha Yogi Krishnamacharya, B.K.S. Iyengarji's guru. So when I went there, I noticed that the students, the attendees were buying so many books. I mean, big textbooks, big and fat, and I just knew that they were yearning for the, learning everything, but they're not going to have time to go through these books. I just know that readership, we all know readership has been going down, down, down for the last decade or two. The screen has taken its place, more screen time. And so I thought, wow, I felt bad. I said, somebody has to really make a film which brings the overview of the tradition. Who was Patanjali? What are the Vedas? What are the Yoga Sutras? Where did B.K.S. Iyengar come in? How did yoga come to the West? Vivekananda's role. So that it was clear. I had to make a film that almost looks like a textbook. And therefore the editing was with chapters, timelines, dates, maps, graphics, learning. People can go back and they will, and that's what happened. Teacher training programs across the world started using Yoga Unveiled as a resource. I did the same with Raga Unveiled and Ayurveda Unveiled, of course. You've seen it, and I'm recommending every academy directors to really make it part of their curriculum, like a book, the required. Because it's people will sit and watch. People will not read all the books, but this,
right.
Yeah. So yes, it was a strategy from the start.
Oh, good. And after seeing it, every individual needs it for a basic understanding of Ayurveda, because being such a completely different science than any way we've ever thought. I think for every individual to have it will open their mind up to a new sense of the reality of healing yourself.
And it's all these films are there's one thread that's very common. And because that was the vision of the sages of India, it's not mine, but I just brought it out very, very strongly, that once they watch this film, they are going to feel so empowered, self-empowered, where the capitalistic society has taken everybody away from self-control, fear, buy this, you'll have to have this, you can't look good without this hair dye, and whatever it is. Right. And here they're saying everything is in your hands. And it is, and it's so simple. Ayurveda is simple. I mean, the day-to-day living adage is very simple. Yeah. It's beautiful, and you don't need to spend a penny. You do yoga, you lift your own body, you don't need to pay a gym fee. Everything is here, the breath is here, the bellows are here. The immunity is here, the defense cells, the soldiers are here. There's a spice box in the kitchen with all the oils are there. You have sesame oil, coconut, you cook with it, you oil yourself, you know, I mean, fresh air. So very empowering. That is what really will make this world a better place if we bring it from home to home.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's simple, but it's not easy in the beginning because it's such a paradigm shift for people. So your film will definitely empower people to start to understand that.
But once they feel better because they did it, that in itself is such a catalyst, right? Experiential. Vedic knowledge is always, that's why they proposed everything to be an experience, not book knowledge. You have to feel it. So that is there, but yes, we can take the horse to the water, but they have to drink.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. So the next piece is on food, which is an important part of Ayurveda. Not only do we need to understand who we are, but we need to understand how to live our lives. And the type of food we eat and how we eat it and how we spice it are very important parts of digestion and understanding health, I think. So we'll just watch the piece and then you can comment on it.
Sure.
Ayurveda has taken the art of eating to the heavens, and for very good reasons. Functions of the mind and body both have a chemical basis. The 6 tastes and the relative quantum of the 3 universal qualities or gunas in food will impact both without fail. It also informs that a proper ahar is a cohesive symphony of sight, smell, touch, taste, and loving intentions. All come together to spark a strong Jatra Agni, the ultimate digestive power that translates into health.
The complete transformation of your food, its impact on your consciousness, this should be so perfect that the mind becomes extremely calm. So even the food has an influence on your mind. Even the way the food is digested has an influence on your mind.
And there is this famous dictum in Ayurveda: when your nutrition is wrong, there is no use of medicine. And if your nutrition is right, there is no need for medicine. Ayurveda puts that into the center of its own paradigm, and modern research has this concept that it has just recently discovered this.
There is no question that everything that goes into the organism is what creates the organism.
All this research on nutrition-related diseases, this is rocketing in lightning speed. It's one of the areas in research which gets most attention right now.
But in the modern medical colleges, there is simply no connection created at all.
Today, nutritional science is almost exclusively focused on very short-term goals and very gross outcomes on health. But what's interesting in Ayurveda is that yoga was the purpose. It's not just achieving health, but to take you to that higher level of yoga.
The proof of a pudding is in the eating. It doesn't matter what is the percentage of carbohydrates and fats. It doesn't matter what various elements in the periodic table might appear there. It's all very much about how does the organism appreciate the introduction of that pudding into oneself? How does the organism digest that pudding? How do things work inside the organism?
Mustard, cumin, turmeric, asafoetida, cayenne pepper, curry pepper, black pepper, and those black cinnamon. Amazing! And these are the common spices used in Ayurvedic cooking. These spices alter the quality of the food. This change in the property, unpalatable food become palatable, unacceptable food become acceptable, and the food which is very disturbing to the body become very, very agreeable. These changes of the food are brought by spices.
Everybody gets hungry now.
Especially for Indian food. I've been very passionate always about people understanding food from a different perspective. We're so used to thinking about food from carbohydrates, proteins, and fat, and micronutrients, and everything else that's going on in our crazy world. So could you just speak a little bit to how you think the concept of food is going to influence the health of North Americans when they kind of understand the concept behind food, because food also makes consciousness, which is a very unusual concept for most North Americans.
That's true, but it all boils down to the Panchamahabhuta, the principle of the 5 elements, because they are in us and they are in the vegetation, they're in food, they're in spices. So very closely, tied in with the health itself. If you take a certain spice which has more of this, the water element, or more of the fire element, and you need the opposite, or you know what I'm saying? The relationship is extremely important as far as healing goes or promoting health goes. The combinations. So knowing yourself, as you said before, and then knowing the properties of basic foods and seasonal properties, and how seasons affect us, and they offer the foods that are very, very beneficial to have. So going with the seasonal foods. There are many principles to this, but I think if one is, as a Westerner, if one is really, one believes that all this is solid, Ayurveda, it's unshakable in their hearts and minds. It's not that difficult. I mean, you study and you go with your own body, and you will know what suits you, what doesn't suit you. You will confer with people like, you, Erica, Neelam, experts who will guide you. It's very important. And I don't think there is any need to be overwhelmed, simple Indian cooking or even Western cooking with good spices and good herbs and all is not difficult. It's not difficult at all. You have to plan your kitchen and your cabinets. You should be equipped with fresh and good pots and good tools. The yantras have to be right, and then it's quick. It's not, people think cooking is difficult. Simple cooking is not, and it is so nutritious and so necessary. We have completely forfeited our well-being to the world of restaurants and wherever people buy food, their nutrition. We've completely forfeited. That's not needed. Stir frying a little spinach and some vegetables and boiling some quinoa and putting some lentils on it. Tell me how long? 15 minutes? 20 minutes?
Yes. Yeah.
We owe it to ourselves, we buy the best tools, we equip ourselves. I think that's where we fall short. You don't equip the kitchen properly or the cabinets with the simple measures. I think somebody should start simple cooking lessons.
I have a course on cooking.
But simple, the word.
Yeah,
so that's because it's overwhelming. I can understand.
Yeah, for sure. And one of my teachers said that North Americans live by the taste on their tongue, not about their digestion and their tissues.
Well,
everything is about the taste on their tongue.
You saw in the film how important elimination is.
Yes.
They start by right? You all start by asking that, how well your bowels, the movements are, and that's where the real health indicators are.
Yes,
so
for sure.
yeah. But no, definitely we need to take that. We can't forfeit our health to the industries, capitalistic.
No.
Is taking
anyone who's taken my simple cooking course, they've had a profound shift in their understanding of what food and cooking is, right? It's not what we think it is, for sure.
Yes, and the spices and how the Indian cooking was designed. It's a very, what shall I say? It's a very rich, you can have a cup of chai with just ginger and some cardamom and mint, and it's a spiritual journey for people that I serve it to. They hold a cup and they go, like really, the olfaction goes, the taste buds, so the designs were to bring a sense of real deep well-being, even short-lived. Some of them are just a cup of tea, but that's okay. That takes you to the next step to achieve. Sure.
It all counts. It's all important. All right. Okay, I have one more piece for us, and it's on the video.
So much, yeah.
Yeah, just hold on and I will pull it up.
Within the human body, the 5 elements manifest as the Tridosha, or the 3 organizational patterns governing movement, transformation, and structure. Because these qualities predispose us towards certain lifestyle tendencies, Mother Nature has bestowed us with 1 or 2 dominant doshas, while the 3rd complements them in dynamic combinations.
So there was a system in the Vedic culture to identify what are the natural inclinations of people and how to engage them in those inclinations in the most productive way so that they can have a productive, happy and healthy life.
विसर्गादान विक्षेपै सोम सूर्यानिला यथा धारयन्ति जगद्देहं vata-pitta kaphastatha. Just like the principle of heat represented by the sun and the principle of coolness and creativity represented by the moon and the wind, that controls all the activities of the universe. In a similar way, the vata, pitta and kapha control all the activities of the body.
As we begin to understand the human biology from a scientific perspective, actually it's very interesting to see that everyone is very unique in their responses to anything, whether it's a situation or a circumstance or a personal relationship or a social interaction or a food or a dietary supplement. No one reacts exactly the same way.
It's a pattern that every organism has that fundamentally comes from the three strategies that an individual has when they're confronted with a threat. Fight, flight, or freeze. This is one method that organisms have used since the beginning of the kingdom of animals to react to a threat. So we have the flight for vata, and we have the fight for pitta, and we have the freeze for kapha.
The doshas are nothing separate than Panchamahabhutas.
So doshas actually represent the self-regulatory system. There is a center, and then there are the two extremes, the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. So the body is always going through a process of, balancing by shifting from one extreme to the other and then discovering the central point.
Prakriti of each person is the individual constitution, expressed as the inborn ratio of the Tridosha in each and every cell. This is established at conception per the measure of the 5 elements present in the egg and the sperm. Jini 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 acha tata gunatini chad riya jini jini jini.
We call a person's constitution their prakriti. Prakriti, in this case, pra means pratama. Kriti means action or reaction. So it's the first action that your organism performs when it's exposed to a certain stimulus.
So every organ, every moment, any activity that happens in the body, even at a cellular level, follows this cycle. There is a period of conservation where you have matter, then that matter is transformed, releases energy, that released energy is utilized.
Wonderful. So the whole concept of the psychophysiological response in the body is a very intriguing concept that I think North Americans should embrace, because our medical systems do not take into account energy or spirituality. And all through physical, spiritual, energetic, are all important in the human experience for healing. And so could you just speak a little bit about how you feel about that, and with, the kind of the emotional response that you were looking for as viewers watched the film?
Yeah, it's one of the $1 million question, right? What are doshas? It's not easy. It's not easy even to describe it. So the whole chapter, as you know, is almost 35 to 40 minutes long, and they've tried to show it. But I think a lot of doctors are now bowing to the understanding of doshas from the Ayurvedic perspective. I'm talking about allopathic doctors, especially the ones I met in Germany, who've also delved into Ayurveda, Dr. Christian Kessler, etc. And they are using it in a very profound way, where they treat patients allopathically, but they keep their prakriti in mind, so that when they choose, say, supposing for hypertension, they choose a certain medication, the categories are different. I'm not going to attempt to, name them because I'm not an expert, but this is what 2 or 3 of them told me, that the choice of medication, even if it's allopathic medication, was it influenced, knowing what the Prakriti was, influenced their choice. So that then, and of course, as time goes, they try to wean them off, but that's pretty good direction to go towards for allopaths,
That's a huge advance.
Yeah, but if we really understand the 5 element basis of the principle of the 5 elements, and all of us, and it's just very, very, it becomes very, what shall I say, real. When you look at a leaf now, just think of the 5 elements that are in there. Or when you look at a person, or when you look at a root or a potato or anything you see, a wood, a piece of wood or a tree or a bark, or there's the 5 elements are in everything. And so that's how we are made up of, and that's why we do certain things, right? The chapter tells us about all that, the qualities of Vata, the qualities of Pitta, and it makes sense when we think about it.
It definitely does.
So,
Neelam, do you have any questions that you would like to ask?
He's muted, so.
Did you hear me? What I'd like to do, maybe if you have any questions, could you put them in the chat box and we can get them answered?
Will you read them to me, or shall I just read them out?
You can look through them and see. Some of them will just be comments and other ones will be questions.
Yeah.
Well, how can we view the film? I'll answer that. We will give the link at the end, but I will also put it on our Facebook page as soon as we're finished.
Yes. Unveiledtrilogy.com takes you to all 3 films and trailers and all the information, purchase information. Unveiledtrilogy.com. Okay.
Maybe you could write it in the text. Can you do that? Or do you want me to?
You can go ahead, please. I'm just reading through so I don't waste time here. I'm trying to, if you don't mind, Erica, please.
No, not at all.
Unveiledtrilogy.com. Thank you for your eye-opening presentation. Did you see? Christine has asked about the rarity and scarcity. That question did come up in some of the interviews, because now everybody's going after Ayurvedic, products like crazy. So I haven't really looked into it too much, but
Gita ji, I have responded to that because I am dealing with the herbs and I'm buying tons and tons of herbs. So I have, I'm meeting with the farmers and cooperatives, and so I have very good idea on that. There's some popular herbs like guduchi or ashwagandha and things like that. So government of India is providing incentives to farmers so that they would grow. And ashwagandha, for example, it grows in, like, it doesn't need any rain, and it grows in like a desert kind of a conditions, which people they didn't know. So now anywhere on the roadside, especially in the southern India, like I have seen, like just next to the concrete roads, there would be ashwagandha growing wild, on the roadsides. So there is a lot of incentives that Department of Ayush, the Department of Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, and Homeopathy. So they are taking care of that, except, some species which is found in Himalayas and that is getting extinct. And so there are regulations on the export of those materials. So those are not sent out or they are not used. So there are some substitute herbs that to be used, and that is, everybody knows that we don't use extinct herbs like jatamanshi and things like that. And then like a sandalwood, its government has totally banned the export of sandalwood and things like that. So government of India is trying all so that we are able to have the herbs and spices, what is needed.
Spices.
And also they are growing in different parts in the world also. Like now there is like Banyan Botanical, they are growing their herbs, some of the herbs in the United States. And also some are grown in Mexico. So there, I see a very good future for the herbs. And I don't think so there would be any challenges to that aspect.
Yeah, and on daily basis, you don't need that much. I mean, you take, if your cooking style consists of the basic spices and seasonal greens and all, wherever you live, the body is resilient. It's very, very, what shall I say, resilient. It will show the signs very quickly. Any common herbs that we can grow here in the US? I mean, that's a question for a Vaidya, I suppose.
What was the question?
What herbs can we grow here in the US? That all depends on your prakriti and what you need to be
And of course,
eating.
where do you live in the United States? So for example, like in California, you can grow like a lot of herbs, but here in Canada, I don't think so anywhere in Canada you can grow anything outdoors, because of the seasons.
Greenhouses.
Yeah, greenhouses, of course.
Yeah. When will you be showing it again in Colorado? Somebody asked, but the pandemic, a whole screening tour was planned, theatrical screening release, but then we just had about 16 of them and then the pandemic hit us. So whenever everything opens up, of course, we'll be traveling with it. So you'll hear about it. Anything in India, they've become very Western. Yes, this film also needs to publish. Yeah, it's all in the film. Anju Singh mentions this. You will see all about the Westernization and what the British did and how Ayurveda with the pandemic, they have started to go back. The whole world is now, this is a time for Ayurveda, as Erica mentioned. There's nothing better to polish up our immune systems. That's the best thing you can remind everybody, that we have soldiers within. And Ayurveda's precept, Ayurveda's thrust is how do we keep the soldiers tip-top, rested, polished, so they are there to fight for us no matter what virus and what. Generally, we're not supposed to get sick. The immune system has to kick in. If we are sleeping well, if you're drinking well, if you're out in the sun. This is again dinacharya, minute-to-minute living. That makes us resilient and makes us not get sick. So if we really hone into the vision of the sages, this is it. How not to get sick by simple measures of how we live in a day, morning till night, and even how we sleep and all that, wake up. But this is a very profound aspect of Ayurveda. If we unlock it, if we really understand it, we bring it to our lives, that's it.
And I believe even if we are sick, if we follow the principles of Ayurveda, even without a lot of herbs, if we start to follow some of the basics, I have seen amazing things happen to people's health.
Erica, right now I am shocked that nobody is talking about the Jalaneti, the nasal wash. When COVID, the pandemic, it is one of the best tools. Forget washing your hands and wearing a mask. You do the Jalaneti with the salt, which is an antiseptic, with the warm water, which brings immune cells into the mucosa every day, which washes, which kills germs and viruses because of the temperature.
But you see, there is an issue. We have to be very careful when we have some of those discussions. Just in Canada with Health Canada, there's a lot of things going on right now. I don't want to get into that on this podcast.
Yes.
But I'm talking about Jalaneti as we brush and floss.
No, I know.
It's the dirtiest area in the body, and nobody ever teaches anyone how to do a daily nasal wash. It's the dirty.
I think practitioners do.
Very little. I mean, I'm talking about with the COVID situation, especially the entry of and drying up, and the portal of entry for all the viruses.
Yeah.
No chance if you do the native. But yeah, regulations are a hurdle at times.
Yeah, they are.
We don't have a freedom of speech, you know, at this
No,
time.
they have a
We are
deterrent
in an
factor,
emergency
natural medicine.
situation.
Yeah.
So we cannot express, we don't have that freedom to express our thoughts.
But Ayurveda has come a long way. This is a good time. This is the perfect time to spread the real Ayurveda, not the materialistic,
Yeah.
what will I say, the allopathic way.
And we can do it in our clinics very easily. Just expression on the internet is sometimes not acceptable. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
I think we're okay. There's a question about, hypothyroidism. What you need to understand about Ayurveda is that there are many types of hypothyroidism. There are many types of every type of disease depending on your dosha. And that is not something that someone can answer in a webinar or in a book. You definitely need someone to help you to understand how to deal with those kinds of conditions depending on your prakriti and your vikriti and many other factors from an Ayurvedic perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with every disease.
Yeah, it's much more complex than what we think. Definitely. You need good providers, you need good Vaidyas on your side to know more.
Yeah.
But there's somebody who asked, what is your vision for the Ayurvedic practitioners and students? I think my vision, if anybody would even listen to me, is empower people. That's your objective. Empower everybody to be their own doctors, to be really self-reliant on and know what we should be doing for ourselves so that we do not get sick. I am as healthy as you are, or I'm as healthy as my neighbor is. So our role is to really empower each one of us, especially being practitioners. You've got a lot of power. People walking in every day.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't want to get into the allopathic world, but the whole allopathic and hospital world has really disempowered people to be their own healers.
That's where the money is. So it will never change. It's too deep rooted. So I don't think we need to dwell on that anymore. It's a given. It's a given. Erica, nothing we can do about this system of capitalism. But knowing that our vision and our objective and our becomes even more stronger.
Yeah, the community is just getting bigger.
Yeah. More stronger, that we want to empower our patients. We want to empower everybody. I mean, I teach the lady who helps me in the kitchen and the cleaning ladies, I teach them everything. They're from El Salvador, but they've started doing Simha Kriya, and I give them this and that and neti pot and ginger. I said, put ginger in, your regular, they just have hot drinks. So empower everybody.
Yeah.
Empower. This is what we can do.
Yes.
Share. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's 5:20. We're 20 minutes over. So thank you very much, Gita, for your wonderful presentation. I have it recorded and it will go up on the Ayurvedic Association YouTube channel within the next week or two. And I'll make sure you get your copy for the people that you need it for.
Sure.
And if you have any other questions, I'm sorry, but we're already 20 minutes over our meeting time. So thank you very much to everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it by looking at your comments. I know you did. So I will say good evening to everyone and namaste.
Namaste, everybody.
Namaste. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Erica and Neelamji. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
May we meet again sometime.
And may Ayurveda empower the world. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.